All right, I'd like to call this Tampa City Council meeting to order. If we could have a roll call, please.
Yes, Chair. Vieira. Goods. Carlson. Dingfelder. Citro.
Here.
Miranda. Maniscalco.
Here. All right, we've gone through public comment, we've done staff reports, and now we can go to any requests by the public for reconsideration of legislative matters. We're beyond that. Committee reports. Now remember, item number 3 we've already done. First is public safety, which is Councilmember Citro. Items 1 and 2, 4 and 5.
Mr. Council, excuse me, Mr. Chair, we had discussed item agenda number 3. However, it still needs to be moved. So I'm moving all agenda items 1 through 5.
No, we moved number 3.
We did?
pulled
Oh,
it in.
that's right.
Yeah, we did a separate
correct.
vote.
I'm moving all 1 through 5 except for number 3, which has already been voted on.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Next is Parks and Rec, and that is Councilmember Goods, item number 6.
Move item number 6, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next is John Dingfelder, Public Works, but we have Councilmember Carlson here as vice chair for item number 7.
I move item number 7.
So, second.
And we have a motion from Councilmember Carlson with a second from Councilmember Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next is Finance Committee, items 8, 9, 13, and 14. That would be Councilmember Citro as vice chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I move items number 8
Excuse me, Justin Vasky, Assistant City Attorney, regarding items number 8 and 9. There are a couple comments I'd like to make to put
Go
on the
ahead.
record.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, as in terms of item number 8, before City Council is a resolution authorizing the issuance of City of Tampa, Florida Hospital Revenue Bonds, Series 2020B, and one or more series of tax-exempt bonds in an amount not to exceed $315 million on behalf of H. Lee Moffitt Cancer Center and Research Institute and the H. Lee Moffitt Cancer Center Research Institute Hospital. It's important to note that these Series 2020 bonds expressly state that the City of Tampa is not liable to pay the principal or interest of the series bonds. Moreover, the issuance of these bonds is not considered a debt or obligation of the City of Tampa, nor does it directly or indirectly obligate the city to levy or pledge any form of taxation or to levy ad valorem taxes on any property.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
if I may, then we are just the pass-through for this.
That is correct.
Thank you very much.
For item number 9, I'd like to repeat the same statements for item number 9 as well.
All right. Would you like to say the same thing or just have the record show that duplicate statements for 8 and 9? Or do you have to? If you do just.
The preference would be that you would approve item 8 and then I'd go on.
Okay. All right. So if we could get a motion to approve item number 8, considering the amount and everything.
So moved.
We have a motion from
Second.
Councilmember Citro with the second from Councilmember Carlson. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item number 9, sir. You
And
had
before
comments.
City Council is a resolution authorizing the issuance of City of Tampa, Florida, of its refunding and/or capital improvement cigarette tax allocation bonds, Series 2020A, and one or more series of taxable bonds and/or tax-exempt bonds in an original aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $300 million on behalf of the H. Lee Moffitt Cancer Center and Research Institute. And once again, these Series 2020A bonds expressly state that the City of Tampa is not liable to pay the principal of or interest of the series bonds. Moreover, the issuance of these bonds is not considered a debt or obligation of the city, nor does it directly or indirectly obligate the city to levy or pledge any form of taxation or to levy ad valorem taxes on any property. And once again, this is merely a pass-through.
Okay. Any questions?
No, thank you for answering my question that you knew I was going to ask. Thank you.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve item number 9?
Motion
So
approved.
moved.
Councilmember Goods with the motion and a second from Councilmember Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Councilman
Mr. Chairman,
Yes? What?
Martin Shelby. Council members, on your desk in front of you is what is referred to as a certificate as to public meeting, and the bond council has requested that City Council who voted on this execute those. So I'm going to be coming, and if you don't mind, I will collect them from you, and I'll give them to Mr. Vasky.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Councilmember Citro, we have items 13 and 14 from that committee, if you'd like to move those items.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second from Councilmember Goods, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, next up is building zoning, and that is Councilmember Carlson for 15 through 19.
I move items 15 through 19.
All right,
Second.
we have a motion for Councilmember Carlson with a second from Councilmember Citro. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, next up is Transportation Committee, items 20 and 22. That is Councilmember Vieira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hereby move items 20 through 22.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from, motion from Councilmember Vieira with a second from Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we go to public hearings that need to be set. Item number 23, if I can get a, well, can we move them all at once?
Yes.
Okay, if we can get a motion to set items 23 to 28, they're being set for public hearings.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Dingfelder with a second from Councilmember Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Public hearings, these are not quasi judicial, so we do not have to swear in anybody, correct?
This is an ordinance 29?
That's not.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, all right. Do I have a motion to open the public hearings?
So- Second.
All right. We have a motion from Councilmember Goods, second from Councilman Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, item number 29, and this is a second reading.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of City Council. Kate Wells, Chief Assistant City Attorney. With Council's indulgence, I would like to take a few minutes to provide the history and purpose of this ordinance, since it's been a few months since we last met and considered it on first reading. The ordinance was unanimously approved on February 6, 2020 on first reading. It prohibits non-motorized vehicles such as travel trailers, watercraft, and boats from parking upon any street, alley, or city-owned or operated property other than for loading and unloading. The ordinance also amends Section 15-47, which currently prohibits trucks or tractors 80 inches in width from parking on any streets adjacent to property designated as a residential district. Instead of referring to trucks or tractors, the ordinance now refers to motor vehicles as defined by Florida statutes, and which necessarily includes recreational vehicles. Also, a written warning is required before issuance of a ticket. After 12 hours, if the vehicle is parked in any prohibited location, a ticket may be issued. And thereafter, after 2 hours, if the vehicle has not been moved, the city may immobilize or impound the vehicle. Before second reading and adoption on March 5th, City Council directed the legal department to research the appropriateness of existing language in Section 15-47 in response to concerns expressed by Steve Michelini. He felt that many large trucks meet or exceed 80 inches in width and should not be prohibited from parking on city streets. In your materials, you have a memorandum which summarizes the results of my research of manufacturer specifications for large trucks, SUVs, and recreational vehicles. The widest truck I found is a Ford F-450 DWR, which is 96 inches in width without counting the mirrors. If council were to allow this type of truck to park on city streets, Class B and Class C recreational vehicles would also be allowed because they aren't as wide as the Ford F-450. If council's intent is to prohibit the parking of recreational vehicles, the attached revised draft achieves this purpose by amending Section 15-47 to prohibit the parking of motor vehicles 86 inches or more in overall width, not including mirrors. If the proposed ordinance is acceptable, it can be approved on second reading without having to go back to first reading. I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Seeing none, who would like to go ahead and move the, oh wait, is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, we have a motion to close from Councilman Dingfelder with a second from Councilman
Second.
Miranda. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, who would like to take the substitute ordinance being presented?
Sure.
Councilmember Dingfelder.
I'll move the following ordinance for second reading and adoption, an ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, relating to parking of boats and non-motor vehicles and vehicles over 80 inches, making revisions to the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances, Chapter 15, Parking, amending Section 15-3, Definitions, amending Section 15-47, parking trucks over 80 inches wide on certain streets prohibited, amending section 15-86, non-motive vehicle parking prohibited, amending section 15-125, additional penalties and enforcement to include immobilization, impoundment, and use of a collection agency, repealing ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr.
Second
Chairman.
from Councilmember Citro. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very
Does
much.
this have to be vote and record?
Roll call vote.
Oh, roll call vote, second reading. Go ahead.
Viera,
Yes.
Goose,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. So we go on to our 9:30 public hearings. I don't think I had a motion to open these items,
So
items
moved.
30 through
Second.
32. Who made the motion?
Miranda.
Miranda.
Councilman Miranda with the second from Councilman Citro. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Being that these are quasi judicial, if you wish to speak on any of these items, 30 through 32, please stand to be sworn in.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll begin with item number 30. Applicant?
Staff?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Mary Samaniego, S-A-M-A-N-I-E-G-O, from the Planning, Design, and Development Coordination. Item number 30 and 31 and 32 have all been reviewed for compliance with the required changes between first and second reading. Those changes have been made and are with the city clerk's office. Thank you.
All right. Anyone from the public wish to speak on item number 30? On item number 30? No? All right. All right. May I have a motion to close then?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Guzzo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Councilman Miranda, if you would read item number 30.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman, I move an ordinance presented for second reading and adoption, an ordinance approving a special use permit SU2 for alcohol beverage sales, small venue consumption on premise, and package sales for off-premise consumption, and making lawful the sale of beer, wine at or from that certain lot, plot, or tract of land located 3333 South West Shore Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in Section 3, providing that all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict repealing ordinance number 2000-68, providing an effective date.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Miranda. Who was the second? Councilmember Dingfelder. All those in favor? I'm sorry. Roll call vote, please.
Viera,
Yes.
Goose,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
I'm sorry, motion carried unanimously.
All right. Thank you very much. Item number 31.
Mr. Chairman, on 31, I have to abstain. I've already given the clerk the paperwork to do so, so I'll be stepping out when the vote's done.
Yes, sir. All right. Item number 31.
Brian Sykes, representing the applicant petitioner, SYKES. No comments really to make, just wanted to give council kudos and my sincere appreciation for holding this hearing. It's great to get back. Obviously, it was back in March, I think was our first reading, and our second reading was to have occurred a couple weeks after that. Obviously, it didn't because of COVID-19, but really appreciate everyone being here and all the accommodations you guys have made for not only the public, but the petitioners as well.
Thank you very much. Councilman Dingfelder.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Sykes, I'm really excited about this project. It's in West Tampa. It's refurbishing one of our old Majestic cigar factories into a boutique hotel and I guess a restaurant and some other uses. It's exactly what West Tampa needs. It's exactly what we need for these cigar factories. If they get preserved like this and a lot of money put into them, we don't have to, really mess with the regulation that much. And it becomes more voluntary. So I know there's tax advantages as well. But anyway, I'm really glad you brought it back for second reading. I'm glad your client is sticking with it. And I'm glad we were able to get back in business in terms of zoning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other council members? No? And I echo what he said. you know, the cigar factories in West Tampa are basically the castles of West Tampa, because, you know, you couldn't build those today. They're beautiful, they're very, very important and significant to our history, so we appreciate it. Thank you. Did I ask for public comment yet? Anybody from the public wish to speak? No? All right, get motion to close from Councilman
close.
Dingfelder, second from Councilman Citro. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, Councilman Citro, if you wouldn't mind reading item number 31.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. File number REZ 19-97. I move an ordinance being presented for the second reading, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 1104, 1106, and 1202 North Howard Avenue, 2306, 2321, 2323 West Nassau Street, 2311, 2315 West Grace Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification PD plan development Z07-63 to CI commercial intensive to planning development hotel and CI commercial intensive, providing an effective date. The petitioner has met the burden of proof, and the site plan meets purpose for plan development, including the waiver.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Councilman Vieira.
Yep, we're at 31.
If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Viera,
Yes.
Goode,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes?
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda. Motion carried unanimously with Miranda abstaining.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Next up is item number 32.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Matt Newton. I'm here for the petitioner, 101 East Kennedy Boulevard, Suite 2800. Between first and second reading, on February 20th, I met at the JCC with the North Hyde Park Civic Association and the West Riverfront Neighborhood Crime Watch. We discussed this project, and we, based on their feedback, added some lighting to the parking lot. This is, just to refresh everybody's memory, this is the parking lot between Hooch and Hive on Cypress at 710 North Edison. And with those changes, submitted them to Development Service and request approval on second reading today.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from council members? Seeing none, anybody in the public wish to speak on item number 32? Seeing no one,
Move to close.
we have a motion to close from Councilman Miranda with a second from Councilman Citro. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Councilman Carlson, item number 32.
I'd like to move item number 32, file number SU 2-19-10, ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, ordinance approving a special use permit, SU 2, approving commercial off-street parking in an RS 50 residential single-family zoning district in the general vicinity of 710 North Edison Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, and as more particularly described in section 1 hereof, providing effective date.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Carlson with a second from Councilmember Miranda. Roll call vote, please.
Viera,
Yes.
Goode,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
No.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried with Maniscalco voting no.
All right, can I get and I apologize for this, can I get a motion to open number 33?
So moved.
Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Citro, the second from Councilmember Goods. Mr. Shelby, was there a continuance on this item here, or the petitioner withdrew, or there was an error?
There was an error, and Attorney Johnson, Susan Johnson-Velez, the Senior Assistant City Attorney, sent a memo to council. She's here if you have questions. Basically, it was the developer's notice contained the wrong address for the property. Therefore, the original resolution is incorrect, and the developer has agreed to new public hearing dates of 6/25/20 at 10:30 a.m. and July 16th, 2020 at 9:30 a.m. The clerk does have the superseding resolution that rescinds the previous one and sets the new dates if council so chooses to move the resolution.
All right, are there any questions, any comments? Anybody? Nope. May I have a motion to, I guess, move those resolutions for those said dates by Mr. Shelby?
Second.
No. I need a motion.
So move.
Okay, motion from Councilman Miranda.
Second.
Second from Councilman Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. That concludes the agenda. I see a memo here from Vic B-Day. Did we already cover that regarding the,
You still need to cover that one.
okay. Is there anyone here on that item? It came off the, it's a new business item on the addendum. I think we have, no?
I believe the memorandum requests a motion for a date of July 16th, 2020, to request the Planning and Development, Mobility, and Legal Departments to provide a staff report, as well as an update on the coordination efforts that have been underway with the Planning Commission and Metropolitan Planning Organization regarding council's interests in the development of neighborhood commercial district plans.
I'll move that item.
All right, we have a motion from Councilman Dingfelder for July 16, 2020. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Carlson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I believe that concludes the agenda. So now we move to information reports and new business by city council members. Councilmember Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We just recently, today passed item 29, which is the one regarding the vehicles and parking in front and on the side and back and so forth. And I'm just wondering if it's possible that when we send the water bills out, because the people this city are used to doing what they've been doing in this progress way of, they call it progress, I don't, of living the way they do and parking the vehicles up front. And I think we could possibly send something when they send a water bill at really no cost to the city other than the printing of a paper, show them the proper way of putting the vehicles in their backyard if possible. I think it would help someone not getting in trouble.
So would you like to make a motion to request the administration do that?
Yes, sir, if I can.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Miranda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Citro, I believe. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, sir. Anything else?
That's it, sir, thank you.
Councilmember Citro?
Nothing today. Great job to not only you, the staff, and everybody involved for moving these council meetings to the Tampa Convention Center. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Carlson.
Yeah, I second that. The staff has done a fantastic job. This is a great layout, and thank you for all the hard work that went into this. A friend of mine who maybe was a friend to many of you also, Daniel Coleman, passed away a couple weeks ago. He was a prominent member of the Saturday Morning Men's Group, and so I just went to his funeral a week ago, but would like to just present a commendation to his family. So I'd like to make a motion to give a commendation to Daniel Coleman.
We have a motion from Councilmember Carlson. Was that Councilmember Goods?
Yes, sir.
Second from Councilman Goods. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Anything else, sir?
It seems like a few days ago that we had the meeting this morning. What do you all think about the concept of putting discussion about the rules and regulations around the police on a workshop? The idea would be that the police, the city attorney, the PBA, state attorney, public defender would all speak about what we have and maybe compare it to other cities, that we'd hear input from the public, and then from that, the city attorney would come back and give recommendations.
When would you like to do that?
I was looking at the calendar. I can't.
There's September 24th, which is a city council workshop.
August 27th?
I'm sorry?
August 27th?
Let's take a look.
What do you all think about the idea?
Why not? I think it would be a healthy discussion.
But the good thing about doing that is instead of having lots of little discussions, we have one big discussion. So let me make the motion.
Mr. Carlson, just a friendly amendment to your motion, if you would add the chief judge on that as well.
At who?
Chief Judge.
The chief judge, to add him to
chief
the,
judge.
to the
Okay.
invitation.
Okay.
All right?
I'm so sorry. May I, Mr. Chair, if I may, just a friendly amendment, if I may?
Sure.
I know we talked about a couple of issues, implicit bias training, including who is doing the training, whether or not it's live substance of the training. I know Councilman Dingfelder had also mentioned, and he can speak to that if he'd like, use of force, crowd disbursement, and community relations, but just throwing out some things there from my notes, just for Councilman Carlson. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and that one.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Andrea Zellman, Deputy City Attorney. I just wanted to take this opportunity to quickly clarify on the implicit bias training. As you'll recall,
The Charter Review Commission added a provision in the charter requiring the city to implement comprehensive harassment, anti-discrimination, implicit bias, and cultural competency training, and to describe the intervals and manner of such training by ordinance. That ordinance was drafted, it was sent to you in March, it was scheduled to be workshopped on March 26th, and of course, that meeting was canceled due to COVID. So our staff is having that put on your July 30th workshop. So I know there was some comments this morning about whatever happened to that's what happened to it. So you will have the opportunity to workshop it in July, and again, you were actually already provided with a draft of the ordinance. But for anyone in the public who may be still paying attention, I want to make sure everyone understands that the bias training, the implicit bias and cultural competency and anti-discrimination training already occurs. It's already being done. You heard Chief Dugan talk about it at the police department. City employees are already required to have that type of training. So I don't want anyone to think that it isn't until the ordinance is passed that the training will begin. The training is occurring. It will continue to occur. It may end up being beefed up. But again, the purpose of the ordinance is simply to codify who gets it, when they get it, how often they get it. But I want everyone to understand that that training is already occurring at the City of Tampa. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Carlson.
If I could just comment on that real fast. I think what the public, from what I'm hearing from the public, is whatever there is, they want more. So I think if we, hopefully, as it's discussed on that day, we can explain how we've been able to take it to the next level in whatever way. But can I just make this motion separate from that? It sounds like maybe Councilman Vieira can set the date for the implicit bias. But if I could just read this. I would like to make a motion that City Council hold a workshop to have a public discussion and review of regulations regarding the police. The City Attorney, Police Chief, Chief Judge, PBA, State Attorney, and Public Defender would be invited to speak. Then the public would be asked to give their comments to what they have heard. Following the meeting, the City Attorney would be asked to present a set of recommended policy changes back to City Council on August 27th.
All right.
No, sorry, a month later. So this meeting would be on August 27th, and then it would be, they would come back to us a month later.
Second, but seeking a clarification.
Ask away.
Okay. Mr. Carlson, so you said regulations affecting the police department. I looked at their standard operating procedures, so Mr. Goods is well familiar with it. It's literally 1,000 pages.
Well, you and Mr. Goods are better experts at this than I. If you have
I'm not an expert, but I just saw it was 1,000 pages. So I think we need to probably tighten up what, the topics that you want addressed.
What do you all recommend instead?
Well, I mean, I'm going to make a motion about that we've already have an existing board that can be put to use to do some of the stuff you're asking. I think it's good to have that you can make your motion as a reference to having those individuals here, Chief Judge, Public Defender, and so forth and so on, so we can ask about those issues when you talk about bail reductions, those type of things like that. I think that's keen to hear from the Chief Judge, because we haven't heard from him to see how can how can the county maybe implement some things like that and get their intake. So I think it'd be good to have those folks here so we can ask those kind of questions, and you can have questions from the audience in reference to that type of workshop.
Are you okay if we just leave it as regulations with the understanding that we've received a lot of feedback from the public? We could take that feedback, just like we have the Bayshore issue, give
Sure.
it to whomever, and then we can, within the city attorney or something, and then have a robust discussion about it. But the idea is have one big discussion, instead of having lots of little discussions.
And maybe you can work with the city attorney and the police legal advisor to tighten it up between now and then that way they have a better sense of what they're coming into.
Okay.
All right. Do you have that?
That's my second.
All right. We have a motion from Councilmember Carlson with a second from Councilmember Dingfelder. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? No. Anything else, sir?
No.
No.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dingfelder.
Thank you. So that was the August 27th bill?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Hand in hand with that, I would like, I had mentioned to the chief, and you all heard about the use of force policy, and I'm going to ask our legal department to take a look at our use of force policy as compared to the model use of force policy that President Obama has advocated, and see if they can compare the two, see how they differ, and bring back a report on the difference between the two at that same August 27th workshop.
All right, do I have a second or any discussion?
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Carlson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, any opposed? No?
I've got a couple more. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman appointed me to the Straws Committee. I think Mr. Vieira did. And the Straws organization at the Straws Center is hurting very badly for obvious reasons. Every year they come and provide us with a State of the Straws presentation. I've held off until we're here in public, but now that we have this opportunity, I'd request that Judith come and report and give us the State of the Straws report on June 25th, prior to our budget season.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, if I can,
And I think it'd be about 10 minutes.
just a reminder, and it's certainly council's pleasure, but,
It's not ceremonial. What's your question, Mark?
oh, it's just an outside invited speaker. That was just the question, because
Oh,
it's
not for the month of June, sir. We sent the memo out just to, social
Not for the
distancing.
month of June. Well, what's the first meeting in July?
In July, we have the 16th, and that's a regular meeting, and it'll be here.
Mr. Shelby?
That's fine. The chair's memo applied for the month of June.
Okay.
All
State
right.
of the Straws report for about 10 minutes on July 16th.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
A second from Councilman Carlson. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, anything else, sir?
One or two more. As I stated earlier, we get preoccupied with this stuff happening on the streets, and we sort of aren't talking about COVID very much. And I think that's a mistake. I think that it's important that we use this bully pulpit to continue that dialogue and to see where we are as a county in regard to COVID. I looked at the report this morning. It was very alarming. It appears that we had 99 new cases in the county and 76 new cases in the city. The numbers sort of plateaued for a while, and now they seem to be inching up. So with that, if we have the ability to do so, I would respectfully request that the county health department send a representative over to us. I'm going to ask for a little exception because I think it's important enough to do it June 25th. And, it's not just a run-of-the-mill, report from some agency. This is critical public health. So I'd ask council's indulgence to put that in June sooner than later, and so the county health department can tell us where we are with COVID, number of cases, rising, falling, where they think this is headed. When I look at statewide numbers, it's sad and everything else, but I think what's more critical is Tampa Bay numbers. Because we can't fix the whole state, but we sure as heck can focus on what's going on in the Bay Area and get the public's attention back to this public health crisis. So that's my motion, June 25th, COVID report from the County Health Department.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Councilman Dingfelder, second from Councilman Miranda. I stated in the memo, no presentations in the month of June, but this is health-related. This is the health department or a representative from the mentioned agency, and I think it's important because numbers have plateaued, but they may be going up again because things are reopening. So we are not out of the woods. In that case, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Mr. Chairman. And the last one I have is going back to our TPD discussion. The chief gave us a little brief discussion about how we can increase our diversity or how we're trying to increase our diversity. But I would like a formal report from TPD on, where we've been over the last, 10 years or so in regard to diversity numbers within TPD and what we're doing in the future, proactively to increase those, the diversity of the Tampa Police Department. I'm not condemning them by any means, because I don't know what those numbers are, but I would request a staff report on that issue, and I'll just bundle it into August 27th, because that seems to be an appropriate date for these types of discussions.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Carlson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody or anything else, sir?
No, thank you.
Councilman Goods.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and again, thank you for your leadership today. The city budget funds a public information office for the Tampa Police Department. The city budget funds an information office for the Tampa Fire Rescue. The city budget funds a marketing and communications department. I move that the city council direct the city attorney to provide council with recommendations as to how communication by the administration to city council can be provided, as by what means it can be implemented, i.e. by charter amendment, ordinance, executive order, through the budget, and to please respond in a written report to city council on the staff reports on June 25th.
Second.
All right, we have a second from Councilman Carlson, I believe, first. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Anything
Mr.
else,
Chair,
sir?
Mr.
Yes,
Chair, I
sir.
have a couple more. We talked with the chief a lot today. There are a lot of issues that are underlining with the police department. I've worked there, so I do know the issues. You may not hear it all, but I worked it, I lived it, and I understand it. And I know what goes on over there. People still keeping communications with me about what happens, what's not happening. So the review board was a big hot item a couple years ago. I think Councilman Vieira, you was here, and Guido was here, Charlie was here. And the community feels that that board has no power. As a retired police officer, I know it has no power. It's just a board that's there. That board can't have subpoena power per the Florida Supreme Court ruled that down when Miami tried to implement a subpoena power program, and you just can't have that. So we need to really let the public know that that's not a thing the council will be able to do as far as in the city of Tampa, a subpoena per se, because the law has prevented that process. But I think beforehand, there are some things that the administration can do to let the citizens know that there's a process to be able to deal with police issues. In one particular, I like to move for the city council to request the administration to authorize the citizen review board for the Tampa Police Department to review the hiring process for new officers and participate in the review process by making recommendations for new hires and ask that they in return to the city council with a recommendation for implementation on the staff reports on July 16th, 2020.
Do we have a second or any discussion? Second on that? Second from Councilman Carlson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Very
Mr. Chairman,
good.
my last one, Mr. Chair. Again, I further move for the city council to request the administration to authorize the citizen review board for the Tampa Police Department to review the use of force policy and procedures on an ongoing basis as outlined in the standard operating procedures of the Tampa Police Department, and as they return to city council recommendation for implementation on the staff reports on July 16, 2020.
Do we have a second? Second from Councilman Vieira. All those in favor? Okay. Anything else, sir?
That's it.
Mr. Chairman Maniscalco, I just wanted to mention one thing. It was brought to my attention just this week that the Citizens Review Board, one of the members, has requested that the board resume meeting, and they're in the process of setting that meeting. I think it's going to happen. I believe it's in July that they were going to schedule that meeting, and I believe some of the topics that you mentioned this morning will probably be topics that they have the authority to bring up and discuss. So I don't know if it might be more appropriate to extend the deadline date that you gave in your motions to outside of that date when they plan to meet as a group and discuss those kinds of issues. It was Dr. Collins that requested the board resume their meetings.
I don't mind doing that, Attorney Grimes, but I think the administration has to review this as well before it goes down to the review board, but we can extend it so their conversations are all together, if that's what you're asking.
I'm by no means an expert on this board. This is the first time it's really come up since I've been city attorney, but one of their authorities is to make recommendations to the mayor and the chief about revisions and additions to department policy and procedures. And it's my understanding from Ms. Collins' letter that those are some of the issues that they're going to be discussing at their next meeting.
That's fine. Again, I hold stand to my motions now to make sure the administration is aware so we can move these items forward expeditiously. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Did we vote on that?
Yeah.
We did? Okay. Anything else, sir?
That's it, sir. Thank you.
Councilman Vieira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and a great meeting, a long meeting, but you chaired it well, so thank you for that, sir. I also wanted to especially thank, again, Chief Dugan, who is here, and who spoke a great deal under some level of stress, and I thought showed his heart, and all the members of the public who came out here today and poured their heart out to us. You know, I know that we all listened intently. We listened, we're engaging, and we're certainly going to act. Just two small things, just one, and Councilman Carlson referenced this, implicit bias, building on the work that was done by our colleagues, Carlson, Citro, and Goods, and others in the Charter Review Committee, as suggested by our friend Michael Stevens on implicit bias, to bring that back. Ms. Selman, was that July 30th? Oh, Andrea? I'm sorry. Was that July 30th for the implicit bias ordinance?
Correct, that's when your next workshop is.
Okay,
We were
great.
gonna put it on that agenda.
Thank you, ma'am. So we'll bring that back with specific inquiries on, for the administration in terms of who will be doing the training, and I guess who is doing the training now. Is it something that is internally done? Are they looking at outside individuals in academia, clergy, et cetera? Who's being utilized for this? The substance of the implicit bias training. Is it live? I would assume so. In other words, no VHS videotape. So that's my motion, including the VHS part.
I'll second.
All right. Do we have a second? Second from
I'll second
Councilman Goods? All right. We have a motion from Councilman Vieira with a second from Councilman Goods. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anything else, sir?
Yeah, and just, I wanted to make sure, I just, a thought that came to me, that we're still doing, even though I know we're not having any ceremonial activities because of COVID-19, Police Officer of the Month, Firefighter of the Quarter, and then ATU Worker. Is that still going on, like individually with council members, or like I guess Councilman Citro, Councilman Goods? Just to put it out there, that let's keep that on. I think that's a great thing. Maybe we can't do it here, but.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes, sir.
Councilman
Yes.
Vieira, I hope it's still going to be going on because we have several months that we need to catch up on it.
Yeah.
Good, okay, just making sure, including ATU, because that's something that's relatively.
Yes, sir.
new. So,
Okay.
thank you.
I don't
Anything
see-
else, sir?
Mr. Chair?
Nothing
Yes.
else.
Before you give your closing remarks, I don't see why we can't continue that and have them still come and be recognized. This is a big enough place. I don't see an issue with that. And hopefully you'll consider that. But I also want to say that my office did receive from the PBA the 609.9 SOP for the body-worn recording equipment, and I will be happy to have my aide send an email and share it all with you.
Thank you very
I'll yield
much.
back.
Anybody else have anything? No? I have nothing. Remember, we meet at 5:01 today. Today was a very important day. I mean, all days are important, but, you know, we listened to the public, and it was so passionate, and we listened to the chief of police and so many others, and, you know, we just have to do better. Life is simple, and we, as humans, complicate it so much because the issues that we struggle with, that we fight with, that so many people have to work through are created by us, and it shouldn't be so complicated. That's why, you know, we should strive to be better, you know, and not just for ourselves, but for the, you know, future generations and whatnot. So I know that everybody's heart up here is in the right place, and I appreciate everything you said this morning. Again, you know, this is extremely important, and I appreciate all your hard work and everyone in the city. And having said that, can I get a motion to receive and file?
So to move.
Second.
Motion from Councilman Citro, second from Councilman Goods. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. We'll be back at 5:01 PM right here.